Okay, so this is assignment 2 for SLHS 1302. So for part 1, similar to assignment 1, there will be an area for you to define some concepts from the course. So these concepts are continuous variable, discrete variable, and histogram. You can find definitions for these in your notes as well as in your textbook and also through Google. And then also there is a part where you have to answer a question. The question is, what do you think should be done to compile a comprehensive list of all the so-called big words in English? Would this word list be considered population of the big words in English or a sample? So provide an example of how you think one could compile this list and then answer whether or not you think it's a population or a sample. Keep in mind that we're looking to compile all of the big words in English. So that should help you answer the second part of that question. All right, so for part 2, we are applying the concepts from class to R. So first, we will set up our working directory. This code line right here is for Windows users, and this one is for Mac users. So we'll go into R with our respective code lines. So put in that, and then remember to replace the X's with your computer's username, and then run the code line. So I'm getting an error message because it already exists on my computer, whereas for you, it shouldn't exist yet, at least not the assignment 2 folder. And then we'll see here that we have our first area where we need to fill in. So it says on either platform, perform the following line to set working directory to the folder you just created. So that's this line right here, or this line if you're a Windows user. And then for this, it says in the highlighted area, fill in the path of that folder. And then don't forget quotation marks. So if you are a Windows user, you'll want to copy this line and put it in here. If you are a Mac user, you'll want to copy this line. And then we'll insert it. Like that. And then remember to replace the X's with your name. And then copy and paste that into R and run it. And then make sure to have this part highlighted in your submitted assignment document. And then lastly, you want to run this code line here. All right, and so that shows that down here in the console that it is working. So if you want to make sure that your directory is working, you want to go to this files part in RStudio, go down to the R folder, and then you should see a folder for SLHS 1302. If you click on that, you'll see the one for assignment 1 and assignment 2. All right, and then if you click in, for example, to assignment 1, we'll see all of this. You click one of these, I believe I clicked that. It brings up your script that you had for assignment 1. All right. So now that we've set the directory, we can move on to step 1, which requires us to read in a data set. So the data set we're going to be looking at is called data. And we're going to be looking at a number of variables within this data set as we're going through this assignment. So what you want to do is copy this code line and then paste it into R. Make sure that for the web address, it is a green color, it's within quotation marks, and it's underlined. So that suggests that it should work when we run the code line. So we run that, and we'll see that it pops up in our global environment. All right, and now we want to run this code line, data, just to see the contents of this data set. Run it, and there we see all of that. It is a pretty big data set. So the variables for this data set are name, nickname, and gender. And so these three variables, so each of the input is for one individual. So we'll see that in this case, this person number one, their name is Aaron, nickname Aaron, and then their gender male. Right. So now what we want to do is select part of the data set and then assign a name to that part. So what we're doing here is we're looking at the dataset data, and then we want to look specifically at the variable name, and then we're giving it the names. And so we'll run this code line, and then we'll see that pop up over here in the global environment. All right, so for this code line, we're going to extract the names from males and then save them as male names. And then you run that code line, and then we'll see over here again in the global environment, male names. Right. And now we are wanting to extract the names for females, and we're giving that the name female names, and run that code line. And then once again, we'll see it over here in the global environment. All right. And so now we're going to be extracting nickname from the data set. So run that, and then you'll see nicknames over here in the global environment. And then we want to extract male nicknames from the new nicknames set. Run that. Once again, we're seeing male nicknames right here. Then we're going to be doing female nicknames. Run that line. Then once again, we're seeing female nicknames over here. And then lastly, we're going to select gender from the dataset data. And then run that. And then again, we'll see it over here in the global environment. If I pull this down, so we'll see all of the different things we pulled through these code lines. So first we have data, which was the original data set that we retrieved, and then we have the individual ones that we retrieved from that data set. All right. So now we'll look at the dimensions of the data set. So this code line right here will allow us to see those dimensions for the data set named data. So when we run that, we will see that there are 1,271 tokens, and the 3 stands for the different columns. So those columns were name, nickname, and gender. And so we can also look at the dimensions of individual sets that we pulled from the larger data set. So this one will allow us to look at the dimensions for the male names only, and we can see that in our global environment. And we remember pulling that from the names variable. So when we run that, we see that we got null. And then as the assignment explains, the reason we get null is because the variable male names does not have multiple dimensions. It only has one column. And so now we can then instead look at the length for male names, run that. And so we'll see there are 570 tokens for this specific variable. And then we can also look at that for female names. And we get 701. So that's how many elements there are for that specific set of data. All right, so now let's generate some tables and summaries for the variable gender. So first we'll generate a table for gender. So we'll run that. And then we'll see over here, because we named the table TG for table for gender, and we'll see that in our global environment over here. And then let's also generate a summary for gender. Run that. So the summary for gender we named SG, and then we can see that over here in the global environment. All right, and so then if we wanted to look at the content, say for the summary of gender, we would just then again type in SG and just run that, and that'll show us what we had seen up here, where we have 701 elements for female name, or the female group, and then 570 elements for the male group. All right, and so now let's convert the gender summary data into percentages. So copy that line, run it. And so then we'll see over here in the global environment. And then let's run percent of the summary for gender. And then we'll see that down here. So of the individuals within this data set, 55% approximately are female, and about 44 to 45% are male. Now we can move on to step 5, where we will plot and save the graphical results. So we will run this line right here. And so if we remember from the previous assignment, the one, or the first number after the C indicates how many rows we'll have, and the second number indicates how many columns we will have. So we'll have 1 row and 3 columns. And so what we will have for the first column is a pie chart. Run that, and we can see that over here. And so this pie chart is for the gender of the nicknames. So we'll see female here, male in blue. All right, and then for the second column, we are going to have a bar plot. Run that line, and then we'll see the bar plot. So then again, this is for the gender of the nicknames. So female red, male blue, and then we can see the number of names on the y-axis. So it's about 700 for female, and so as you remember over here, we saw that it was 701. And then for male, it looks to be about a little over 550, and as we can recall, it was about 570, or it is 570 for the males. And then if we want to create a division between those two plots, we'll run this box, and then it creates a box around the bar plot for us. All right, and then the last graph we will be putting in is another bar plot. And in this case, this bar plot is for the percentages of gender of nicknames. So we'll run that, and then we'll see that over here. So female looks like we're at about 55%. If we go over here, it says female 55%, male, recall, is about 45%, and we can see that over here for the male group. And then once again, we'll want to put a box around that bar plot or histogram. Run that, and then we'll see the box show up around it. Okay. And then run these 2 lines to save the image to our folder. All right. So if we go back to the assignment document, we can see that it wants us to insert the gender of names graph here. So if we want, we can go into here and then export the image and then export it to wherever you would prefer. I typically prefer to bring it to the desktop just so that I can drag it right into the document. So minimize this. And so we'll see over here, we brought the image to the desktop, and then I just inserted it right into the assignment document. And so this is what it should look like when you put it into your assignment document. So you should have the 3 different plots all within this larger plot. So we've got, as we can remember, the 1 row and then the 3 columns that we intended to have. All right. So now we are going to find the most popular nicknames. So what we will do is generate a table for male nicknames. We'll run that in R. Run that. So we should see that somewhere over here in the global environment. So we see it at the bottom. And then we're also going to want to generate a table for the female nicknames. And then run that. And then once again, we should see that in here. So we see that right there in the global environment. And so now we are going to sort these tables. So this one is for the male nicknames, and we are going to sort those. And so then we can see we titled it M and NS sorted. So if we go over here, we see the M and NS sorted in the global environment. And then now we want to sort the female nicknames table. So then we'll run that code line, and then we should see that up here for the F, N, and S sorted in the global environment. Oops. All right, and now we want to see the contents for those. So let's look at the male nicknames sorted. Run that. And so we'll see that over here. So we're seeing all of the male nicknames. All right. And then, oops. Let's do the female sorted or nickname sorted. Run that to bring that forward. And so now we're seeing all the female nicknames here. After the F and an S sorted, we're seeing female nicknames. All right. And so now we want to see the first 10 values for each of these variables. So run the male nickname sorted 1 through 10 are the first 10 values for this variable. And so we're seeing that right here. And then let's do that for the females as well. And so we're doing the first 10 for that variable, and we're seeing that here. So now if we go to the assignment document, it asks what are the most frequent male nicknames. So that is what we were getting when we did the male nicknames sorted 1 through 10. So what we can do is just copy these lines from the console and then paste them into our assignment document. And so we're seeing that here. That is 1 point. And then what are the most frequent female nicknames? So we found that when we did the female nicknames sorted 1 through 10. So we'll just copy this from the console, paste it into our assignment document, and that'll be another point right there. All right, so now we can save the history of our script by inserting this code line into RStudio. You run that, and your script is saved. So we can actually find that if we go back to the SLHS1302 folder, click on that, go to assignment 2, and then we are seeing the script for assignment 2 right here. Pull that forward, and it'll be everything that you wrote for this assignment in your script. All right, so lastly for step 8, you have a couple of questions that you're going to want to answer after you finish all of the R exercises. So question 1 is asking, are the variables name, nickname, and gender in this data set categorical or numeric? Remember that categorical is qualitative and numeric is quantitative. So keep that in mind for deciding what type of variable name, nickname, and gender are. And then also, once again, keep in mind, are they numbers or not? And that'll help you answer that question. And then for question 2, it's asking the frequency values for the 3 variables are numeric. Are the frequency values continuous or discrete? So this is asking, can they be broken down infinitively? And so let's keep in mind that continuous means that they can be broken down, discrete means that they cannot. So you're going to want to answer whether or not you think these three variables are continuous or discrete. So can they be broken down infinitively or not? And that is it for this assignment. Remember to fill in any of the yellow highlighted areas within the assignment because those are typically all worth points. So just to go back through what is worth points, we have the part 1 concepts. So you will get 3 points for question 1 and 1 point for question 2. Then if we scroll down, you will get half a point for filling in this code line here. Scroll down, we'll see that you get a 1.5 for this plot. And then you will get 1 point for this data, a point for this data, and then 1 point for answering this question, and then a final point for answering the final question. So in total, 10 points. And then also remember to put your name at the top of the document as well as any group member names that you have.